Hey, what's up, guys? We have a really important module today. We're going to be diving into your macronutrients. We're talking about carbs, fats, and proteins, and we're also going to talk about the metabolism of these carbs, fats, and proteins as well. Really important module. Let's go ahead and dive into it. This is going to be a game changer when it comes to learning about nutrition and just talking about metabolism of your macros in general. Okay, so let's go ahead and present this. So we're going to be talking here about your macros, which are going to be your carbs, your fats, and your proteins. The Pop-Tarts, this is a necessity if you're going to be tracking your macros, something called flexible dieting. Go to Hot Fudge Sundae. No disagreements there. Everything you need to know about your macros, okay? What are your macros? Oh, as we know, your macronutrients are going to be making up your calories inside of your food, and they're made up of your carbs, your fats, and your proteins. Each of these are going to be metabolized differently in our bodies due to different chemistry between them and how they're structured. Macros are simply used for energy and keeping our bodies functioning. And the composition of how much food we need to lose fat will be different for everyone. So your macros are going to be different, which would be meaning that your caloric profile, your caloric budget, the amount of calories that you need to lose fat, depending on your body type, is going to be different from person to person. Okay. The calorie content of your carbs are going to be different. There's different values for each of the carbs, proteins, and fats. So going into this, for every single time you consume 1 gram of carbs, there's going to be 4 calories per 1 gram. For every time you consume 1 gram of protein, there's also 4 calories. For every time you consume 1 gram of fat, there's 9 calories. And for alcohol, 1 gram, 7 calories. And obviously that is going to be dependent on the liquor that you're drinking, or beers that you're also drinking. The caloric deficit, as I got done talking about that, depending on your body type and depending on, a variety of other things, that's going to be determining the amount of calories that you're going to need to specifically lose weight. We break that up into your macronutrient composition of your carbs, your fats, and proteins. That's going to be different for everyone. Most importantly, what we're going to be focusing on as far as fat loss goes is we're going to be focusing on hitting your calorie targets as well as hitting your protein targets. Okay. And for protein, how much protein you're going to need is going to be dependent on your body weight. So just a good rule of thumb, 1 gram per pound of your body weight, or 1.5 to 2.2 kilograms per pound of your body weight if you're using kilograms, okay, which 2.2 will also match the 1 gram per pound here, okay? So if I'm 160 pounds, that means I'm going to want to have 160 grams of protein in my diet, okay? We want to be consistent with tracking our protein as well as our calories moving forward in the fat loss cycle. What are carbs? Okay, carbs are going to be simply sugar. Very simple, guys. Carbs' primary function is energy. It's actually the most preferred fuel source for resistance training, and we need to do resistance training because we need to get stronger and we need to increase the amount of calories we're burning at rest, okay? Carbs can be broken down in sugars, starches, and fiber, okay? You probably have often heard of complex versus processed carbs. Your sugars are mostly going to be your processed carbs, and they're going to be very fast to be digested. And your starches are going to be mostly your complex carbs, which are going to be slower to be digested, which are going to be the ones that we want to prioritize because it's going to make sure that we're feeling fuller for a longer period of time. And then fiber. Fiber cannot be digested or used for energy, but fiber has a filling effect, and it's really important to maintain a healthy gut. Carb metabolism. This is kind of the debate on why people think carbs are bad, which I'm going to basically end that right now and tell you guys that carbs are essential and they're not bad. So we definitely need them for what we're trying to obtain as far as getting a good physique and getting stronger in the gym. Carbs are definitely going to play a role. It's going to be really based on preference, guys. You actually don't need carbs in your diet. It's been proven through the ketogenic diet. But as far as carbs go, they're going to be essential for energy, purposes. Okay, so what happens is when we ingest carbs through food, what happens is we release insulin. Okay, and we've probably heard of that insulin's really bad and all the above, but that's also going to be a big myth. Okay, insulin's main job is to allow our bodies to use glucose, okay, or sugar for energy. It allows your body to transport this glucose into your fat cells, your muscle cells, as well as your liver. Okay, and inside the liver, it allows glycogen to be created. Okay, and glycogen is going to be the main fuel source for resistance training because glycogen can be converted into something known as ATP, and ATP is what we use for energy inside of the gym. Okay, the other role of insulin is allows lipids, okay, which are fats, to be created and converted into triglycerides. Allows amino acids and potassium uptake into muscle cells, which is going to be essential for the rebuilding process of protein and muscle. Manages fat breakdown, and it also helps excrete sodium from your urine, which is really good. We don't want to have too much sodium content inside of our urine, okay? And the reason why carbs are important, again, is because of glycogen, and that is important to help us get stronger in the gym, which ultimately is going to help us burn more calories at rest and increase our resting metabolic rate, or RMR, okay? Moving on to fats. What are fats? Well, guys, fats can be broken down into saturated fats, unsaturated fats, and trans fat, other known as fatty acids. These get transported into our blood, and those get stored into your adipose tissue, your fat tissue, and that's going to be later used for energy. So fats are going to be really, really good for energy because we can store way more fats than we can store carbohydrates. So fats are going to be very essential in your diet. Saturated fats are solid at room temperature. So this is basically your animal products. Unsaturated fats are not solid at room temperature. We're talking about olive oils, things like this avocado, fish, seeds, things like that have omega-3s and 6s, which are really beneficial for your health. Trans fats are the bad fats. This is good. They go through a hydrogenation process, which basically they just get filled up with hydrogen, which is obviously not necessarily good for us. So trans fats are going to be your junk food, and they don't really have any nutritional benefit to them. Kind of talked about triglycerides, but what are they? These are lipids found in the body. And so when we eat fat, right, it gets converted into calories. And those get converted into triglycerides, and triglycerides are going to be stored in your fat cells. And so later on, hormone releases triglycerides for energy between meals. So pretty much triglycerides and cholesterol are going to be the fatty acids found in your body, or your lipids found in your body. And so when we are ingesting fats, fat metabolism, like I said, cholesterol and triglycerides are going to be primarily the lipids that we have in our body. These are important. Cholesterol is important because they're steroids and they help build cells and vitamins. And the lipoproteins are going to be the transporters of fat into your bloodstream for it later to get stored for energy. Okay, so kind of what I'm talking about here. Your lipoproteins, your HDL, and your LDL are going to be used to transport fatty acids for energy for later use. Okay, moving on. What are ketones? I'm talking about the ketogenic diet here. When we don't have any carbohydrates in our diet, we can actually use fat as energy. And so what happens are ketones are made from the liver, okay, and you produce them when you don't have enough insulin in your body from sugar or glucose, right? So your body doesn't have glucose from carbohydrates, so it needs glucose from other things because your brain is going to need glucose for its primary energy fuel source. So it's going to create glucose from your liver, primarily taking amino acids and protein, basically convert that into glucose, which would cause protein to kind of have a breakdown more so than protein synthesis. So that's how ketones are going to be made. And of course, ketones can be used from your muscles as well as your tissues for energy. So when you're not ingesting carbs, you're using fats and proteins as energy, and you're getting glucose from your protein, which is therefore going to be used for fuel. Okay. And this only happens when you're eating low carbs. What are proteins? Proteins are obviously really, really important. Proteins are responsible for a number of functions, right? Primarily for building your muscle and repairing your muscle, rebuilding cells, tissue, and organs, hair, skin, and nails. It acts as a messenger for enzymatic reactions, and enzymes are really important for your neurotransmitters, communicating your muscle and your brain. All the above there helps with digestion, blood clotting, and muscle contraction, and energy. And this is not what we want to use for energy in our body. Our body prefers carbs and then fats. Protein is going to be last. You probably have heard of your amino acids before. Your amino acids are building blocks of protein, and this is going to help protein synthesis occur. There's only 9 essential amino acids that you have to get in your diet, and those 9 essential are going to be helping protein synthesis. They're also broken down into carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Protein is the only thing that has nitrogen in the body, and fats and carbs don't. Protein metabolism, talking about protein synthesis versus breakdown. It's important when we're in a fat loss cycle that we have more protein synthesis than breakdown, so that way we can spare our protein, making sure that we have as much protein in our body as possible, so that way we can develop a better body and a better physique. The protein sparing effect is just that. It's sparing the amount of protein. Therefore, we do not use protein as energy, and carbs are going to be very essential for that because of the fact of glucose, right? When we ingest carbs, we get glucose from those carbs, and that glucose gets converted into glycogen, which helps for energy inside of the gym. When glucose is absent, we go to protein and amino acids to develop the glucose. Therefore, it's going to cause some muscle protein breakdown, and there's not going to be as much synthesis as breakdown, and that's why carbs are going to be helpful when losing weight and cutting out your calories. Okay, hope that made sense. Guys, this is really important stuff. I want you to go over this many times. Get really familiar with what your macronutrients are and the metabolism of your carbs, fats, and proteins, guys.